Good afternoon, Mr. Verbič. Welcome here to the studio of Invest for Sight, an online business magazine and media partner of this Gaidar Forum, which has just terminated. So what's your overall impression of the outcome of this outstanding, I would say, meeting of various professionals and thinkers and researchers and politicians and practitioners here in Moscow?
Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. I would definitely say hello, not just to you, to all the audience, and of course congratulate the organizers of Gaidar Forum. This is really a great event, a very significant conference, forum, and meeting of a lot of decision makers from different parts of, from entrepreneurships to the politics, to global scientists regarding the economy, relations, and all other kinds of very important and actual matters that concerns everyone who is active in nowadays society. Definitely, this is not an important event just for Moscow and for Russia and for Russian Federation, but for Europe, Asia, and for the whole world. So I'm very glad that I had this honor to be invited on this Jubilee forum, Gaidar Forum. By the way, Gaidar is important also from the point of view, since I'm coming from Slovenia, Republic of Slovenia. He was a great friend of Slovenia as well, and he used to be visiting our country not just formally as Prime Minister from his functions, but as well private. And I'm really very glad that I know a lot of people that have had the chance to be in direct contact with this great man. From one side, and from the other side, of course, it's not just important and my honor to be invited for this year's Gaidar Forum, as well in the position and in the role of board member of European Federation of Investors, which is really interested to establish better contacts with associations, with persons, with decision makers, and of course with the institutions in Russian Federation as well. And I really look forward, as well as my colleagues, to try to broaden and to strengthen the relationships. As you know, these are, especially in last years, not as good as we would like to be because of the sanctions and some other matters. But on the side of direct relations among the people, among the entrepreneurs, among the investors, of course, we would like to see even better relations, and definitely one of the reasons why I'm here is also to report to my colleagues about the possibilities and to, of course, establish the communication among some institutions that are dealing with, like I mentioned, investment, entrepreneurship, and especially or generally to say business relation among Europe and European countries and Russian Federation. Let me just mention, maybe some of your audience don't know, Slovenia, Republic of Slovenia, is a part of European Union and of Eurozone as well. But on the other side, we are sometimes also criticized from our colleagues in Europe that we have maybe too friendly or too close relations with representatives from Russian Federation, but of course I would definitely disagree. I think that these relations are very important for Europe, maybe even more than for Russian Federation, especially having in mind some perspectives for the future and having in mind also the analysis and the presentations that we have been able to hear also at this event, and I am able to hear also other important international events that we are attending and visiting, closely listening and playing an active role. Let me just mention the OECD Forum each year in Paris, then it's World Federation of Investors as well on the other side, the institutions connected to startups and business angels. On the other side also this forum is known as Russian Davos or something, so this is also one of the events that we of course are looking forward and trying to play a more active role, as well as some bodies of the European Union like European Parliament, European Commission. We have also great expectations from the elections for the European Parliament and the new situation, probably also considering the European Commission, some matters that are really quite actual at the moment, of course including Brexit, and the matters that definitely are not just the matters that would be important for the European Union as such, but for a global world as well. And let me put as one of the really important matters, at least from our perspective, and again I'm talking not just in the name of, as a president of Pan-Slovenian Investors and Shareholders Association, but also as a representative of European Federation of Investors, that relations with our Russian colleagues are very important, and we would really like even to strengthen and to broaden this cooperation. Maybe just to explain the role and the nature of the European Federation of Investors. This is an association that brings together on a Brussels level at least one association from each European country, and altogether it represents over 5 million of individual investors in Europe. This is not the institutional investors association, but of course some of our members and representatives are also in the bodies of institutional investors, but generally we represent individual ones. So this would mean that the interest is all kind of investment. Of course, at the first place, capital market, financial market, but then business relations and the greenfield, brownfield investment, not to mention maybe even investment in arts, in sport and in culture. This is all interest of different associations that are brought together under the umbrella of European Federation of Investors. And let me just mention that we have had in the past a member from Russian Federation as well.
That was my next question, yes.
But unfortunately, last couple of years they are not as active as they have been before. So we would like to see maybe again the more active role of the Russian Association of Investors and Entrepreneurs, or maybe, and let me use this occasion as well to ask, maybe there is somewhere in your audience that might be interested in cooperation with European Federation of Investors.
So are you referring to some entities, some organizations, or could it be just absolutely private individuals? Well, when you talk about Russian involvement. Can I become one of your investors?
Yes, definitely. Everyone is welcome, but definitely we would like to see very active association, or more of them, that are working on the field of investors entrepreneurship and possible business cooperation. Let me repeat, in the past we have had established cooperation with the Russian Association, which is unfortunately not very active in last years. But on the other side, it is quite significant as well that as a European Federation of Investors, we also are not excluding, but we are inviting also the representatives from the countries or from the states that are not just the states of the European Union. In this matter, let's say the Russian Federation representatives have been in the past also visiting our yearly meetings, general assemblies, as well maybe to mention another state, another country which is not formally part of the European Union, it's Turkey. And I would definitely like to underline that European Federation of Investors is open also to cooperation on broader level. Maybe another interesting moment is that some of our yearly meetings, not the formal ones, are also held in the countries that are not just countries of European Union. So for this year, one of the meetings, it is a meeting of legal committee, will be, let's say, held in Beirut in Lebanon. So there are definitely not just a lot of opportunities, but there is definitely an interest from our side, from side of my colleagues in the board of directors of European Federation of Investors to have cooperation and much better than was so far also with the representatives from Russian Federation. Maybe considering this question, let me go back to our national association, Pan-Slovenian Shareholders and Investors Association, which I'm running for 15 years now as a president. And in last 10 years, we have had organized quite some common events with our Russian colleagues on different occasions and matters. Let's say one of the quite significant and known event was bilateral investor conference, Russia-Slovenia. It was held a couple of years ago in Ritz-Carlton here in Moscow. And it was the occasion of visit of our Prime Minister to the Prime Minister of Russian Federation, Mr. Medvedev at that time. And definitely, of course, we used such an event also to bring business interest of the companies from Slovenia. There are several companies that are really working very good, quite active and present on the Russian market. Let's say maybe most known such a company is Krka, the pharmaceutical company Krka. I have here also their brochure to present, and I have presented it to some of the colleagues here and to the people that showed the interest. Another one maybe is a company called Rico, and Mr. Škrabec was also attending this Gaidar Forum, not just this year, but before as well as Miss Danica Purk, who is running Bled Business School. She's also a speaker, not just at events of this year, but also previous years at Gaidar Forum. And on the other side, of course, we are also trying to organize such events in Slovenia whenever some of the representatives of Russian Federation are coming for a visit. Not just necessarily from the politic part of social life and social activity, but in this matter, let me just mention each and every year's Russian chapel ceremony, which was visited by President Mr. Putin just at the 100th anniversary of this Russian chapel in Slovenia. It was 2 years ago. And before that of Mr. Medvedev and I mean the highest representatives of Russian Federation almost each year. This is one of the gatherings where we also like to see not just representatives of the political institutions, governmental ministries and so on, but as well from the people from business representatives, and we are glad to see that more and more business representatives from Russia are also attending such events, and they see it also as a possibility to establish business cooperation. Maybe they found some new ideas. Or some
so
new
in the aftermath, does it generate any investments from Russia into Slovenia or, well, in the region in general?
Yeah, of course.
How do you see it? Is it expanding?
Of course it does. There had been some of, in the previous years, some of quite significant investment from Russian companies in Slovenia. Let me say one is very interesting from the point of view of the association that I run at the moment. It was the investment in Slovenian steel industry from the company Cox and from Zubitsky brothers from Russian side, which also then afterwards decided to take over of the industry of the meat and the chicken industry in Slovenia, a very important company, at least for Slovenian matters and for the region as well, called Perutnina Ptuj, which is now just in the process of selling to another company. It is still open question about will it be the Ukraine company or the French one, and it's one of the interesting matters as well, not just on the Slovenian level and degree of decision makers in the agencies of, but also in the European and Brussels level. And then, of course, let me just mention, I mean, the Slovenia as a destination is more and more popular also from the side of Russian citizens regarding not just the tourism, but quite a lot of Russian citizens decided to buy the real estate in Slovenia to also stay there. There is quite active Russian cultural center in Ljubljana, and we are very glad to have really very good program from the side of Russian Cultural Center in the center of Ljubljana, and they prepare almost weekly very interesting, significant and the top events from Russian cultural side. So I believe there are quite a lot of activities already going on, not just from the side of by intention went not just in the field of investment and business cooperation, because you know this friendly relation among the people, among the nations are definitely bringing together also the better environment for trade, for investment, for business cooperation, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here. And again, let me conclude that I am really grateful and very glad that I was be able to attend the program, very rich program of the Gaidar Forum this year. And let me mention that I have met tens, if not hundreds, of people that I will definitely stay in touch on personal or both business level.
Just one more question, if I may. We cannot avoid mentioning the energy cooperation between our two countries, and there was supposed to be quite a great deal of investments from Russia and from Slovenia as well for building pipelines, but those South Stream has been in trouble as far as its construction is concerned. Do you consider it a devastating blow on the large-scale cooperation between the two countries, or whether it could be overcome, well, in the short run, I mean?
I mean, definitely not just it could be, but it should be overcome. There are so many fields and so many businesses where we can have good cooperation. Of course, I mean, I have to mention that we have some bitter taste regarding the Southern Stream and the project that already have been almost taking place, and the highest representatives from Russian companies have been visiting our CEOs and our companies and already starting and signed agreements about it. But you know, I mean, in nowadays world, definitely, especially in the business sphere, even more, have to understand that the circumstances somehow can change from today to tomorrow. Of course, it's better if you have a partnership that is reliable, if you know that you can rely if something is agreed or even signed. But on the other side, we have to have the understanding that sometimes the circumstances and the climate might change quite fast, and we should not, because of this, trying to avoid or not to overcome with maybe other options. And sooner than later, I believe that time will bring the cooperation in a field of energy, which is a very important one as well, and back to it. There had been also previous activities. If I go back in the past regarding our petro company, Petrol, and on the other side, the interest of Lukoil and some other activities from Gazprom as well, considering it. And there was, at the end of the story, also probably a situation that someone or some active representatives, the higher representatives of companies, had not been satisfied with the results so far and with the talks and what have been negotiated. But on the other side, again, I believe that whatever has not been done, there is still in front of us, let's say, a bright future of even better cooperation. And again, I think it's very important that our personal relations and relations among the representatives and as a nations are really friendly, and this is a tradition for not for decades but for centuries, so to say, and this is definitely also best possible basics and fundament also to cooperate in business sphere and in some others that I have been mentioning through our conversation. And I would again like to express my gratitude for the invitation to the possibilities that I have had here during these 3 days, very active 3 days. And let me again invite anyone who might be interested in cooperating with our association or European Federation of Investors, which I'm representing at this occasion as well, that they should just maybe show the interest, send an email, and we will be glad to assist in any kind of matter. So maybe this might help. The name of our association is VZMD. So vzmd.si would be also our webpage. Our webpage in Slovenian language, and they can also find the ones that are devoted to our International Business Investors Program. And in this International Business Investor Program called Invest2Net, we are bringing together a lot of different global and regional association and partnership that we have already established. And again, we are looking forward to add some more, because the cooperation brings definitely better society, better world, and better life for every one of us.
Well, and definitely an organization like yours, an association of private investors, is a good mechanism to bring together people, organizations, nations, to improve cooperation in every respect. And therefore, you are not just improving the economics of countries and people, but general political and every other climate. And therefore, I believe you are really doing a great job. And thank you very much for your time and sharing your opinions and experience with our audience. And we look forward to expanding bilateral and multilateral cooperation.
Thank you very much.